What's up, my prosperous little plums? This is Rob from the Gay Guy Plays, and today on The Daily Grind, we're going to continue to keep things a little bit chill around here. I haven't quite gotten into the groove of the new year, especially with the looming threat of World War III hanging over our heads, so I figured that we would go ahead and have a bit of a conversation specifically about the 5 things that I would like to see Warframe do in 2020. And it's not like little things like, I would like a Warframe that does X, Y, and Z. Please release new war in the Duviri Paradox. Not even like hashtag trash bag. I mean, listen, that's something that I've wanted for a while. In fact, you know what I've really wanted? If y'all can make this happen in 2020, somebody had stated it in the comment section, and they used the term basura. And I was like, oh my god, I love that. My little Tagalog speaking heart was just super duper into it. And then I stated it on stream and someone was like, aspiradora forzada es basura. And I was like, that's beautiful. I love it. But here's the thing, doesn't quite roll off the tongue as easily as hashtag trash bag. So could y'all work on like a basura meme for me? That would make me very, very happy. Regardless, the topics that we're going to be covering today are much grander in scale when it comes to the way that Warframe works. It's not going to be these singular little teensy items, but it's going to be things that I think will positively affect the game on a much grander scale. So let's go ahead and jump into the first example of this. Now, in 2019, one of the things that we saw was probably the one meme I will buy into when it comes to Warframe. He was the most evilest, most difficultest. Like, I have never popped a vein in my life so hard than I did with Garrosh during that whole water fight event that DE had. And it just goes to show that they can create difficult AI. They can switch up the AI of things and really give us some trouble, because Garrosh was a bitch. Do y'all remember him? He was that little dude that was just running around, kind of looked like Teshin. Everybody felt like he looked like Teshin. And he was like running amok on people. Legit, if you were not good at Warframe and you were not good at like managing projectiles and dodging and bullet jumping, Garrosh would get you. And his numbers showed it too. He got a high ass kill count. In addition to that, of course, we did see Wukong with his Celestial Twin have a more aggressive AI as well. So for me, I really like to see DE do a polished pass on their enemy AI. Whether it's maybe just creating like specific enemies that have that type of Garrosh feel to them, where they're elusive but can really hit you hard, things along those lines, like the tormentor of all, Garrosh. Something in addition to that, or maybe really focusing on doing like an enemy overhaul where they give us enemies that truly challenge our metas. I would really like to see something along those lines, because there's always a talk about difficulty in Warframe, and you know, there are some arguments where saying, well, just leveling up enemies isn't going to make them any more difficult if they have terrible AI. And I do kind of agree with that. So I was thinking, let's do a little bit of an AI pass or introduce new AIs to keep everything nice and fresh. The next item on the docket, number 2, I really enjoy DE's quick response to the issues that we saw with Kuvaliches as well as Railjack. Listen. The whole first half of the year, if you'd watched, not yesterday's video, but my previous video where we literally went through each of the releases in the previous year and kind of ranked how well they performed, one of the things I really loved was their turnaround time for the Liches and for the Railjack content. They really kind of sunk their teeth in and said, we're really gonna make this good, because the first half of our year really sucked. Actually, the first 2/3 of our year really sucked, so we need to get off our asses and make this really good. And one of the things that I definitely want them to do is to continue on with this quick response time, and I think entirely within the whole community, we all feel like just letting old issues sit there and moving on to something completely new and expecting us to forget about some of the old issues that are still lingering is not a good look. It's not something that we want to see, and I hope that by knocking out, you know, Kuvaliches finally getting that released, finally releasing Railjack, maybe they'll have a little bit more leeway in, you know, their staff to be able to go ahead and address some of these things. Mainly, like, one of the things for me is they still haven't fixed Kuva disruption. I'm gonna say over and over and over again, this is gonna be like another hashtag trash bag, because legitimately, Kuva Disruption is a more difficult version of Kuva Survival, but the only thing about it is, well, I won't say more difficult, more engaging. It can get more difficult as you go through, but literally it ramps up a lot quicker. You can get better, you can't really get better rewards from it because the reward table of Kuva Disruption is absolute basura. Oh, I love it. I'm already feeling the trash vibes. But legitimately, it doesn't stack up against Kuva Survival, and they've just let it sit there. They've addressed all of the other disruption nodes, but they didn't address this one. In addition, what do you call this? We still, you know what? We're getting into a different area for the next topic. But yeah, I definitely want them to not let old issues sit there and really continue their quick turnaround time when it comes to addressing issues. So moving along, we've got number 3, progression systems. Okay. I really, really enjoy things like focus. I know that people did not like having to grind out focus schools, but for me, it gave me a reason to log in every day. It really pushed me to like tick things off of my box. I'm like, okay, today, you know, I got this much, I was able to clear this node. Today, I got this much, I was able to upgrade that. You know what I mean? Being able to go into the game and have marked progression in your game kind of makes me feel like I've accomplished something instead of sitting there farming relics, cracking relics, and saying, okay, well, I could potentially sell this on the market for some plat or something. Like, really, a lot of people don't log into the game because they don't feel like they're progressing. And in addition to that, one of the things that I want to see is I want to see rewarding progression. Not just the progression itself being like good unlocks that will benefit us as operators or benefit our Warframes or benefit our Railjacks. Like, make sure that each of those nodes really feel good. Because let's be real, right now in Railjack, some of the nodes really not like inspired to go get them, you know? And I think that DE is actually going to be digging into the trees and try to improve them a little bit, at least from their last dev stream. They've stated that it's something that they are very aware of, and they're probably going to end up working on, especially because Railjack is new. However, I would like to see that same energy kept for focus, because right now we haven't had focus touched in ages. I also want to address something that was stated by a DE staff member on one of their streams. Now, keep in mind, it was one of their personal streams, so, you know, there are things that are said that, you know, you kind of have to take with a grain of salt, but I would also like to see progression rewarded, not just rewarding progression. But what was stated during the stream was that, oh, they didn't want to give any rewards for like completing all of your focus trees or completing a specific focus tree. Because, and this made me crazy, like, we don't want you to feel like you have to complete them. Then why'd you put the progression system in the game? Why'd you put nodes and shit for us to complete in the game if you didn't want us to complete it? What's the point of introducing something that you don't expect us to complete? That's just stupid. That's basura. I should have just titled this whole video, what was basura in Warframe? But that's exactly what it is. I'm sorry, but the fact is, if you put it in game, there should be a reward for us completing it, and you should want to incentivize us to complete it. You put it in there. Like, there is no other developer out there saying, you know, we want people to play our game, but we don't want them to play like all of it. We just want them to play some of it. Like, we don't want you to get the full experience. We just want you to get the partial experience. Like, where is the development thought process of that, right? You should want everything in your game to have some sort of meaning, right? Every time you complete something, it should enrich us, and we should feel encouraged to continue progression. The whole thought process of, well, we don't want you to go ahead and, you know, complete all these trees. We don't want you to feel like you have to. Well, sorry, but that's what a progression system is. We want to try to move forward. So not only do I want rewarding progression, aka improve focus, improve Railjack intrinsics, but also I would like to be rewarded for the progression. These people are your dedicated players. They're the ones that stick by you when there is no content dropped, grinding away at these things. They should be rewarded. Just putting that out there. Next up, since we're talking about rewarding, let's talk about better rewards. And that was actually going to be tying into the whole thing I was talking about, the Kuva disruptions earlier. But y'all, it pains me to think that they thought Umbral Echoes were gonna be something that we wanted. Again, basura! Basura! And then, instead, in their place, they introduce non-universal universal medallions. They're like, we're gonna give you universal medallions, but we're not gonna let them work for PvP. And I get it, PvP is, or Conclave, because, we have Lunar. I guess that's still PvP. But, they want to encourage us to do those nodes. But here's the thing. Nobody is. I think that this is a predominantly PvE game, and I think that that's where the culture of the community is. So there is no reason for us to farm these universal medallions when standard medallions are easier and more reliable to get for the specific for these specific syndicates that we're already a part of. So it's like, but why do these universal medallions need to exist if it's not going to be completely universal, right? So for me, those were not well thought out rewards. And when I say better rewards, because I know it's kind of like a very generalized term, I don't necessarily want more powerful rewards, but rewards that will enrich our existence in the game. And the fact is, enriching our existence in the game is not farming for Umbral Echoes every 24 hours. Like, give us things that will make us feel good about our time investment, that will make us feel like we've progressed, and maybe not progressed, what's the word I want to say? Not vertically, but horizontally, giving us other additional paths or something along those lines. And maybe we could dedicate a video to sitting down and figuring out what better rewards are, but this is definitely one of those things where I'm like, yo, we need to have a conversation about these items because you're not giving us great rewards. And then, number 5, which is the last thing that I wanted to touch on, and I think that everybody, I don't know, this might be a little bit contentious, but difficulty that doesn't include nerfing the things we love. And we saw this a couple times in 2019, and it made me puke in my mouth a little bit. But one of the big things was the Grendel. The way you farm Grendel was, I believe, because I didn't farm Grendel this way. I got reviews to do and all of that kind of stuff. We got day 1 access that we're working with, but I believe it's play with no mods. You have to do a high level mission and you don't play with mods. That is garbage. You know why? Because people sat there, they earned the endo. That's literally a progression system. Leveling up your mods, I remember back in the day when we were struggling to fully rank Hornet Strike and Serration, and we're like, oh my god, finally, I have a fully ranked Serration and Hornet Strike and all this kind of stuff. My build is complete, That's progression. That's the kind of progression that we had. So you're basically whittling down their progression and saying, no, you can't have any of these mods, go have fun in this mission type. The other thing that I fucking hated was removal of hit scan from arc guns. But why? Was that necessary? The thing is, I hate the thought process of, no, you can't use that, because we failed to create a game with challenging AI, enemy types, and so on and so forth. We don't want to, and this is where I'm going to get a little triggered. We want to nerf you instead of putting our brains to work, doing our jobs, and making more challenging content. So instead of us working harder to make better, more challenging, more difficult content, we're just going to nerf you. I'm sorry, but you created these systems, and I personally feel like you need to stick to these systems as your freaking foundation, and then find another way for us to take on more difficult targets. And I know everybody's saying, well, guess what's going to end up happening? They're just going to find a way to outsmart those targets or to, game the system. Bitch, that's what happens in every game. And you know what other developers do? Then they say, all right, you found, the cheat code to take down those enemies. When we come up with our next launch, we're going to find another difficult way for you to do it. Developers are constantly looking for more and creative ways to make their games difficult. And they understand that their player base is going to come up with creative, our jobs are to come up with metas. That's our job. Our job is to create metas as players, all right? Your job is to break the meta with another release. That's how it goes. This is not a set it and forget it thing. This is a live service. We have to remember, Warframe is like in beta. It's a game that's ever evolving. So you can't sit there and be like, well, they're just gonna find a way to like overcome it. Duh, that's what we do as players. That's what we do by setting the meta. That's what we do by having optimized builds. And here's the thing, there are definitely players out there that are gonna challenge the meta, they're gonna do something weird, they're gonna do something different. That's how it always happens, you know? And that's cool too. We don't have to stick to the meta. That's not a hard and fast rule, but it's kind of like one of those things of we know the rules, we know how to beat it, now let's just fuck around. That's what players will do. But as developers, you have to come in and understand that that's what players in every video game do. They create a meta, they fuck around with the meta, and it's your job to come in with your next release that breaks and challenges that meta. That's just how it is. So guess what? Fucking invest yourself in creating difficulty that doesn't strip power from your players. The power that your players earned, okay? Not into that. So that's, for me, is my list of 5 big overarching things that I would like to see coming 2020. Hey, listen, I'll give you some leeway. Maybe we just hit on like 2 of these things, 3 of these things this year. And maybe, you know, in 2021, we address, you know, another one of these things and so on and so forth. Just keep improving. Like, I know I've said basura plenty of times, but, you know, I definitely love, I wouldn't be here with Warframe for as long as I have been with Warframe if I didn't genuinely like aspects of the game. There's a lot to like, but there's also a lot to like, not like. Regardless, let me know what are the 5 things you would like to see Warframe do in 2020, and I would like to see if you could keep it to bigger things. Like, don't think about like, you know, small things like, you know, ooh, I would like another story quest, or I would like this type of Warframe or this type of weapon. Think big. Give us ideas, not frames, not weapons, not little dinky bits. Give us the big picture. Regardless, that's gonna do it for me for now. I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. Happy New Year's, you guys. Bye-bye.